All right. Let's see who else has joined us. Okay, all right. Welcome for those who are joining us. Welcome to the board office hours. Ask anything about board CVs and LinkedIn profile. My name is Takasande. I'll be your host today for this event, and our guest, Elmarie, she's ready to speak. So yeah, I know she likes, she says a lot. So you are in for it today. All right. So just for housekeeping, there's going to be a Q&A at the end after she has finished her presentation. And also just a reminder, this webinar is brought to you by Anvil Advisory. We specialize in corporate governance and board advisory and training and development. So welcome. And also, please, I see most of you are using your name in the chat, which is good, so that at least we know who you are. We don't want to say iPhone number 4 to call you that. We want to call you by name. Also, you're welcome to use the chat function. Actually, you can drop in a greeting or just let us know where you are joining from. Keep your mic muted all the times until you're allowed to speak, perhaps at the end in the Q&A session. All right. If you get disconnected from the event, please just connect again, reconnect using the link that you use. All right. So before I introduce the speaker, I just want to go through some of the opportunities that we have for board development and training that you might be interested in. So I'm going to go through some of the events that we've planned for you. The first one is the King 4 to King 5 event that we've planned for the 26th of March, that is next month. This is a 3-hour session where we go through the transition from King 4 to King 5. So it's going to be quite interactive. We are going to look at the difference, and also during the session, you're also going to receive practical tools. For example, there's a checklist that you can use for your board in terms of transitioning from King 4 to King 5. Another opportunity that is also lined up, we also have the Director Mentorship Program. So this program, we've been running it for the past 4 years. So rather, this is our 4th time to run this program. It's about 7 months long. So if you are interested in joining this program, please contact Barbara. The contact details are on the screen, as well as the email and the phone number, and then we can organize for you to have an introduction section so that you know more about this program. The next also event, we are organizing another event in May, on the 14th of May, at the Maslow in Centron. This is a board craft, the essence of high-performing boards, by Dr. Peter Crow, who is based in New Zealand. So he'll be coming to do this. So this is a capacity building workshop where we look at how to be a high-performing board member. How can your board make a difference? There are many types of boards. Some, they just come and sit, but some, they make difference in their organization. So how can you build confidence? How can you strengthen the board? How can you govern with impact? So register for this event. It will be at the Maslow in Centron. Dr. Peter Crow is an accredited director, chair, and global recognized governance advisor. He has been speaking in many countries, in Africa, in Australia, in Asia, as well as in New Zealand, where he's based. So this event is going to be impactful for those directors or those who want to stand out as board members. Another opportunity is just a gift from our side. So if you do not have a copy of this book, you better get it on LinkedIn. If you want a copy, just go on LinkedIn. This is my LinkedIn profile, and then scroll, you see a message, and there are instructions on how to get this gift. It's a fantastic book with many tricks that can assist you as a director in 2026. Another opportunity is also this book that is an award-winning book that is on sale. You can get it on Amazon, on Takealot, or also on my website as well. This book has been changing people since I get a lot of comments, people saying this book is different. It's not a sales pitch. It's because it's there to deliver value and impact. So you can grab a copy on Amazon, Takealot, or also on my website. Other products and services that we also offer, we've been having a number of requests. People saying that, do you do board CVs? Yeah, we've eventually said, no, let's just go for it. So we now offer board CV services. If you need a board CV, we can also assist you with that. And also, we've also have another subscription service that we have not been sort of marketing or talking about, board vacancies, because we reserve this for those who are on our director mentorship program. But if you want to receive board vacancies every week, you can actually subscribe. These are the contact details below that you can get hold of us, and then we'll just give you, take you through how to go about it. All right. Thank you so much for attending this session. Now, before I introduce Almarie, let me just talk a bit about her. Almarie is an international board career coach and the founder of NED Careers. For more than a decade, she has worked with at the intersection of governance, board recruitment, and board coaching, helping capable executives, professionals, and leaders translate their experience into meaningful board impact. Almarie is based in Cape Town, but works globally. So she supports clients across African continent. So she works across the continent and also has got clients in Europe, in Australia, and across the globe. She also guides them through what often in this often opaque and intimidating journey into non-executive directorship. Her work challenges the persistent myth that board appointments are about luck and privilege. She is there to say, no, it's a myth. Instead, she argues that successful board careers are built through intentional positioning and a clear board value proposition and authentic commitment to service. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Almarie.
Hi, thank you, Taka. I want to say hi, and Taka said you don't have to be on camera. And for any of you who think, who's this weird lady with the sunglasses on? I had eye surgery 2 days ago, and unfortunately, with any kind of light, and definitely light from my screen, no matter how dark I made it, I can't keep my eyes open unless I've got the biggest sunglasses I could find on. So I hope it's not disruptive in any way, but it doesn't do anything to the knowledge I have and what I want to bring to you today, because
you look like a movie star.
You are way too kind. But to me, this discussion is actually so valuable. And the work that Taka and his team does, many people think that we are in competition with each other, but in a sense, we actually work together. We tend to almost, we are like bread and butter. We just go together and we help each other. I honestly find Taka a valuable resource in this industry and in the sector, in the sector and Anvil Advisory. And every day I learn something new from them. and I learned something that they do that I never knew of. So I'm thankful and really honored to be part of this discussion. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me just quickly check which screen I'm on. You guys don't want to see all my screens that are open. I'm one of those people who usually has 40 different things open and somewhere music is playing. You know, that funny meme, that's me and my presentations. So let's talk. Let's talk about your board CV and your LinkedIn profile, because that's what we really want to focus on today. There's a lot of other things that we can discuss, but like Taka said, there are so many other people who are more knowledgeable in other areas who will come on and who will be able to talk to you and discuss some other aspects of board governance. But I've been doing this for 13 years. I know what a board CV entails. I know what your LinkedIn profile needs to look like. And that's what I really want to bring to you today. Now, why does it matter? Why does it matter that you have a board CV and a LinkedIn profile that speaks to what you can do? The difference is people see the board CV and the LinkedIn profile as application documents, especially the board CV. They see it as application documents and they think, okay, here's a vacancy, I need to submit this. We need to shift that view. We really need to start realizing that it's not just about application documents. It's actually governance positioning tools for you. You can use your board CV and you can use your LinkedIn profile to position yourself as a capable board member, because people don't usually know whether you are a capable board member or not. And if you write your board CV in, I almost want to say in the old way, you are going to miss the mark on that one. I do see some hands coming up. May I ask that we leave the questions for the end? That will make it easier if we go through the presentation, and please jot down your question, and at the end of the presentation, I'll answer all the questions that you have. Okay. So let's see, how do you transform your normal CV that you want to apply with? How do you transform that into a governance positioning tool that you can use to show that you actually are adept at governance? Now, you need to get 4 documents ready. And many people say, no, the board CV, what about the board CV? If you miss the mark on these 4 documents, you are not going to get the board role. You obviously need your board CV, but you also need to be prepared to write a cover letter or a motivation letter. As for myself, I like to write what I call a motivational cover letter. When I help a client, because sometimes I help clients, I write their applications for them. And when I help a client and I write their application for them, then I write what I call a motivational cover letter, because I like to straddle both of those so that the board or the nominations committee, sorry, so that they are motivated to appoint you. And then the supporting statement. Now, many people are like, a what? And I know this is something that in some countries, it's called a supporting statement. In other countries, it is a letter of reference. In other countries, it's called just a motivation. But a supporting statement is a specific type of document that, unfortunately, we're not going to have time to talk about that today. But that's something that I usually talk about in my own programs and teach the supporting statement. But the supporting statement, in my view, is also part of this 4-way introduction that you bring to the board and that you bring to your vacancy applications. Now, your LinkedIn profile is part of these documents. Now, you won't submit this one. You're not going to submit your LinkedIn profile to them. Please, I've had people think that, okay, I must download my LinkedIn profile and submit it with my CV. That's not what I mean. But boards are looking at your LinkedIn profile nowadays. When they start shortlisting and they see your board CV, more often than not, they go to your LinkedIn profile, they open your LinkedIn profile, and they read what it says. And that's why it's important that the one document supports the other. Your board CV will support your LinkedIn profile and vice versa. If it doesn't, then it needs to be redone. Now, when you do your board application documents, it doesn't matter whether you are busy with your CV, whether you are busy with your supporting statement, with your LinkedIn profile, you always need to think of the question, why you? Why will this board appoint you? Everything you put in all of these documents need to be fact-based. That's the one important thing that I see people make a mistake with. They do not just use facts. Obviously, definitely nothing that's false. Definitely. That goes without saying. But do not make use of wishful thinking in any of your documents. Do not write there, my aim is to one day complete my PhD, or my aim is to one day chair the board of governance of a Fortune 500 company. They do not want to know what you want to do one day. They want to know what your capabilities are today. What can you bring to their board? They are selfish. They want to have the value that you can bring to them. And that's it. They don't care about the rest. Now, you have to show your point of difference. You have to show why you stand out from the rest of the crowd, because I think Taka can tell you, and I can tell you, everybody who works in this sector can tell you how big the competition is. Competition in this sector is fierce. Everybody wants a board role, and you need to find a way to show why you should be appointed as opposed to the person next to you. Every document that you write, every document that you're going to submit to them, and your LinkedIn profile that they are going to be having, that they're going to have a look at, all of those need to answer the question, why should you be appointed to this board? That's a question you're going to be asked in just about every interview. So be prepared for that question. And I almost want to say, get ahead of that by answering that question through these documents that you are going to submit to them. Now, this is where I always struggle. It's me and moving my slides along. There I go. Now, you need to get your 4 documents ready. We've done that. We've done that one. Sorry. I always lose track of where my slides are. Now, why a board CV? Your board CV differs from your executive CV. And this is something that I've seen happen when I do recruitment, because although we are not recruiters per se, it does happen that companies contact us and say, listen, we know you work with board members, please help us find someone. And now and then we don't have someone within our client base, and we will advertise outside from our client base and then find someone for them. And the biggest mistake that I find is that people submit their executive CV for a board role. When I put that recruiter hat on, the most frustrating thing is to read through this executive CV, and I see all of these skills this person has. I see, yes, they have a lot. They bring a lot to the table, but it does not answer the question why they should be appointed over and above another person. Whereas the board CV sets you apart from the rest of the crowd. Now, it sets you apart from other candidates who just submit the executive CV. Having a board CV gives you that one step up, that just your people who just submit the executive CVs, and they tend to throw these executive CVs at as many vacancies as possible. They barely read what the vacancy asks for. They just look at where's the email, send my CV, where's the email, send my CV. And that is honestly a program, that is just a program where you're going to fail. You need to be conscious of where you are applying, why you are applying for that board role, and that you can actually offer something to that board. And not just think it. Your CV and your application documents need to tell that story. Now, the focus of your board CV is on your abilities as a board member. It is not an executive strategic as where you act as someone who's operational. It is strategic as opposed to operational, where your executive CV is absolutely focused on what you can do within the company. What do you do as an operator? Your board CV looks at you as a governor. It looks at you as someone who can act strategically and with a broad bird's eye view from the top. Now, one question I get asked with just about every CV is when someone writes their own CV, they ask me, but shouldn't I put a photo on the first page? People want to see a photo. Unless they explicitly ask for a picture, please do not put a photo on there. These CVs end up on a database. That database has an algorithm that runs, and that algorithm reads almost the same as LinkedIn's algorithm reads, the same as Google and all of these search engines algorithms. It works in the same way. So it reads what it says, and it turns that picture of yours into a language that the algorithm can understand. Now, one small picture can be hundreds of lines of code that this algorithm has to read. Now it reads that, and many of these algorithms are set to only read a certain number of lines. Now it reads this picture, and it's going to miss the keywords that the recruiter is looking for. So when your application ends up with a company that works with a database, if you've got a picture on there, it's going to miss the mark. You are not going to be chosen. The only time I would say a picture is okay is, first of all, when they specifically ask for a picture, which I don't even think happens in 1% of cases. But also when you hand them a CV, when you give your CV to someone, it's printed and you give it to them in their hand. Then you might use a picture. Then you can put all these nice frilly details on there. Now, you hear me talk about the CV and about all of these things. Now, at the end, I'm going to have a little surprise for you. I've brought some resources that will help you. So don't think, oh, but what does it look like? You're going to know what it looks like at the end. Use an easily readable font. These squirrely fonts and Comic Sans and these fonts that lie on its side and that looks very pretty, a calligraphy almost type of fonts, those things are not easily read. Use a font that is easy to read, and your sans fonts really work well. A few years ago, they did some research, and at that stage, Helvetica was the font that worked the best. But I see with the new Windows programs that are being rolled out, Helvetica doesn't appear on it anymore. So using something like Open Sans or any one of those sans fonts does make it a lot easier to read. Then also use 11 pixels. Don't go much bigger and don't go much smaller than that. A mistake that I see people make is when a board specifies in an advertisement they only want 3 pages or they only want 5 pages, they go and they take their CV and they just put it in a font like 6 or 7, and they compress all of this into 3 pages. So they end up taking a 9-page CV and suppress it all, compress it all, and use this tiny font, and they put that in the document. That is okay, I guess, if someone is going to be reading your CV on a computer. I guess they can go there to the right-hand side and go 200 and 300% and enlarge your CV so that they can actually read it. But when the CV gets printed, nobody can read it, and nobody wants to sit there with a CV and they can't read the words on there. So don't go below an 11 font, but also don't go too big, because when you start enlarging your font too much, somehow it is also more difficult to read. So an 11 pixel, I see, really does work well. It does seem to be, from the research that I've read and from personal experience, it does seem to be just that sweet point, that sweet spot where your CV will get read and people actually take notice of what is on your CV. Now, the order of your board CV, and don't worry, I'm not going to talk at length about each one of these. I just need to make you aware of it. Personal information at the top, and please make sure that your contact information is there. Now, some boards will ask questions like gender and age, and in South Africa, they often ask you to provide your ID number on there. Then you add those things. If they don't ask for those specifically, you just scrape it out of that CV, and then you just supply them with your name, surname, and obviously your email address, and use an email that's easy for them to contact you. Many people make the mistake to use a work email, and I had the case not long ago where a client of mine changed jobs, and she did not consider letting me know about it. She didn't let anybody know about this. So on her CV, it still said that she worked at this specific bank. And we submitted an application for her months ago. And then this company contacted me and said, listen, we can't get hold of this client of yours. Where is she? And I started emailing her, and these emails bounced back. Eventually, I called her. It took me about 2 days to get hold of her. And then she said, oops, I'd never changed that. So on your CV, it doesn't matter how impressive the company is that you are working for. Please use your personal email on your CV, because you are going to change jobs at some point. You are going to forget to change it on that document. So please, personal information will be your name and surname. The most important is your name and surname. The email that's easiest to get hold of you, that is a personal email. So usually it's like a Gmail address. And then your mobile number, your cell phone. Do not put your work number on there, because it happens that they are looking for you after hours. I've had cases where the board had a meeting and they decided on an appointee, and the chairperson was very excited. It's 8 o'clock in the evening, and he's very excited. He wants to call this board member and say, listen, we chose you. Welcome to our board. And they couldn't get hold of this person. And he eventually called me and asked me, how can I get hold of him? I want to say congratulations. And it had to wait for the next day, because I also didn't have this person's mobile number. So please do not put your work number on there. Put your mobile number on there, because we always carry our mobiles with us, and it's easy for them to leave a message on there for you. If you are in a situation like at the moment, I'm definitely not answering my phone. I don't care who's calling. I'm not answering. And if you are in a situation like that, they can leave you a message, and you might be the one to get that nice message where they say, hey, you've been chosen. Welcome to our board. So please make sure you've got your mobile number on there, and then also your address, but not your full home address. Only a suburb and a city and a country will suffice. Do not put your full address there. You do not know whose hands that CV might land in. We do have so many people nowadays who come with ulterior motives, and if they have your exact address, You do not want that to end up in the wrong hands. So please, just the suburb and the city. And if you're submitting an application from another country or to another country, then the country as well. The next part will be your board profile. I cannot go into depth at this stage about the board profile, but the board profile writing is a process that is incredibly important to the whole application process. Then board and executive successes. And someone teased me the other day and said, when he sees me, he thinks, yes, Mrs. Success. Because that is one of the things that's going to set your CV apart, your board CV from executive CVs, as well as other people writing board CVs where they negate these successes. Boards want to know that you've done this before. They want to know that you are able to bring something to the board, that you've got a history of success. So you need to word those successes in a certain way, and I am going to be talking about that a little bit later. Next section will be your non-executive board and committee roles, and then you see executive board and committee roles. Just a quick word. One would think that everybody knows the difference between these two. Everybody doesn't know this. Executive board and committee roles are the ones that you take as part of your job, as part of your executive career that you are in. So if you, for instance, you're the CEO of a business and you are on the RemCo and you're on the ExCo of this business, those will come under, those experiences will come under your executive board and committee roles. The non-executive ones are the ones where you do not physically work in that company. So you are a board member or a committee member, and that is it. You do not put on your suit and tie or your nice dress and your high heels and go into an office every day and get your check at the end of the month. That is an executive role. Non-executive, you simply have an oversight role. You simply serve on the board as a non-executive board member, an independent person from the executive. Your executive career will be all your jobs, and you're going to do that from your latest in descending order to 10, 20 years ago. First, list all of it, but this is difficult to say with the time constraints that we have now, but at some point you are going to delete some of it and you're going to tweak your CV a little bit. I do teach on that. Unfortunately, this time won't allow me to have to really explain that part to you. But initially, please add everything there. No matter how far it goes back, if you're my age, you've had a few jobs in your life, please add it all. Your CV might end up being 25 pages long. You're never going to submit that long CV. You are going to take some of it away, but your basic CV needs to have that. Then your volunteering. Boards like people who volunteer. If they can see, because most of your, what I can almost call your bigger board members, are volunteering on some board somewhere, or they volunteer even at the soup kitchen. They go and they peel potatoes on a weekly basis. People like to volunteer. And oftentimes it is when they see that you volunteer somewhere, it makes the difference to them because it shows a certain type of personality. It shows that you're someone who's more giving than the person who simply isn't interested in any type of volunteering. And this, let me just say, this is not only volunteering on boards. This is also volunteering in any capacity. If you coach soccer at your child's school, you can put that on there as volunteering. Tertiary education speaks for itself. That is your university and college degrees, your certificates that you get there. Next section is professional development. Now, most of us, especially if you've worked in the corporate world, you are going to have so many things where you did a 3-day course here and you did a team building exercise there, or they sent you for a half-day course to the IODSA where you completed just a half-day seminar, for instance. Those things come under professional development. Your tertiary education is specifically where you have degrees, where you have specific certificates, and not just professional development. Then licenses and certifications, if it applies to you. So if you're a doctor, for instance, you have to renew your license. I think one of my clients said to me the other day, on a yearly basis. If you are a real estate agent or real estate professional, as they're called nowadays, you need to renew your membership to I think the PPRA. You need to renew that on a yearly basis. I think it goes up to a 3-yearly basis, but those types of licenses and certifications need to be mentioned here. If you're a CA, that needs to be mentioned there. Then the next thing is memberships. Memberships show your connectedness. Now, of the 7 things, and unfortunately I could not fit those into the slides here, the 7 things that boards look for in a board member, of those 7 things, your network is one of the most important. And showing that you are a member of certain clubs, of certain organizations, does illustrate a certain level of connectedness. So please add your memberships. If you are a member of the IODSA, if you are a member of Toastmasters, wherever you're a member of, please mention that there. Even tennis club, something like that. You might think, why would they be interested in that? But believe me, it does make a difference very often. Then publications. Taka will obviously add his books that he's written on there. If you contributed to a journal, for instance, you're a medical doctor, you contributed to a couple of articles to a medical journal, you can add those there. The one thing that I would steer clear from is where you published something on your own blog. I've written hundreds of articles in my lifetime because I started in this industry writing for other people. So I can, under publications, I can reference hundreds, if not probably into 1,000 different articles. Do not add those there. If you wrote for a specific magazine, for instance, if you've written an article for Forbes magazine or for one of those big guys, in those cases, you reference that. Then your awards, any awards that you've won in your work, in your career, please reference that. Interests, any interests you have. If you're a marathon runner, if you're a cricket player, anything that you have that might pique the interest of someone on that board, add that. And then referees. One note that I want to add about referees, please do not add your referees' contact details on your initial one, on your initial CV, because you do not want that information out there unless the company specifically specifies it. And then you need to let that person know, listen, they asked for it and I have your name on there. Now, one of the most important things, there's a language shift from operator to governor. And that language shift needs to be in your documents. I'm going to go through it quickly because we only have time till 6 and we still want to do the Q&A. Executive language. I managed a team of 250 across operations, finance, and HR. That is how you will state it in your executive CV because it shows that you are operational. Board language says, provided oversight of organizational capability, succession depth, and leadership effectiveness over a team of 250. So you still bring in that number to show how big the team was, but it brings in that language of oversight, capability, succession depth, leadership effectiveness. So that is the type of language that boards are looking for. I have another example here. In your executive CV, you will say implemented cost reduction initiatives delivering 15 million Rand in savings. on your board CV, you are going to say, challenged and guided management on cost optimization to protect resilience and stakeholder value, resulting in 15 million rand in savings. So that shows success, but it also, the language portrays that you can guide management. It shows that you are aware of stakeholder value that needs to be there, the resilience that the business needs to have. So showing that level of awareness makes a difference in a board CV. Now, executives run businesses. Boards safeguard those businesses. And that is where the main difference lies. Your LinkedIn profile, I'm going to run through this real quickly. The key to your board appointment is your LinkedIn profile, because many times recruiters nowadays do not advertise board positions. They go onto LinkedIn. There's a package they call LinkedIn Recruiter. They buy that package and they find you via your LinkedIn profile, and they'll contact you directly. So you don't even have to submit an application to a board vacancy. You are being found, and that is what you want at the end of the day. Your LinkedIn profile needs to correspond with the information on your board CV. Please check that the dates and things like that concur with one another. Otherwise, it seems like you are either lying on one of the two, or that you skipped something that you did not want to come to light. So please go through your LinkedIn profile, go through your board CV, and see that stuff like dates and your title, those kinds of things, that they do concur, that they do speak to each other. Then create an effective URL for your LinkedIn profile. The URL is that top line that you have. Effective URL means you are not going to use your title in there. For instance, you are going to use your real name. Most LinkedIn profiles, when you register your profile, it gives you a whole list of numbers at the end. You have the opportunity, and it's usually on the top right-hand side of the LinkedIn profile, you have the opportunity to go click on there and change that URL so that it just contains your name and surname. If you've got a very common name and surname, you obviously will need to add something more there, because there might already be someone, but check. You might be the only one who has changed that. That helps people to find you in Google, and it helps Google to push your profile up on their search engine, so that if someone searches for Taka Sunday, Taka is the one who comes up first. Don't add a long list of what jobs you've done and those kinds of things. It interferes with these search engines. Have a professional picture taken. Please do not use a family photo with all of your grandchildren around you, or you and your husband. No matter how much you love your husband, he does not belong on your LinkedIn profile. And my grandson, I adore my grandson. And on my WhatsApp, I've got him, but he's not on my LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile is your professional picture of who you are. Use your real name, not your job description, as part of your name. And your tagline must hold the right keywords. So there's a tagline right below the name. Please put in the board member, committee member, those kinds of things, if you have had those roles. If you haven't, then you put the prospective board member. But first put the CEO, CFO, all of those things that you are, and then prospective board member. Just to show that, listen, I'm not a board member yet. This is in the case of someone not having had board experience before, but it shows that you are looking, and that's the message that you want to get out there. If you've had board or committee experience, please put there that chairperson or deputy chair, and whatever the case may be. Please add that to your tagline at the top. Then you are going to list your governance-related skills at the top of the skills section. So where your skills are, please, there is a button that you can click where you can move those skills around and put your top governance related skills at the top because you are looking for a board role. Education listed in descending order and include all licenses and certifications that you included in your board CV. Make sure that it is on your LinkedIn profile as well. You can add that if you go to add a section, if it's not on your LinkedIn profile yet, go to add a section and you will see it comes up under that heading and you can add that to your LinkedIn profile. Now, ask relevant contacts for recommendations. That's something I'm terrible with. I'm really bad at that. I always forget to ask contacts for recommendations, but please do ask contacts for recommendations. And if you've been working with me for a while, I know you somehow, please remind me to write the recommendation for you. These recommendations honestly do make a difference. When chairs and nominations committees look at your LinkedIn profile, they do see that, listen, but this is the education this person has, this is what they've done in their life, and then they read what other people say about you, and that does leave an impression with them. Now, I've brought some resources for you. I don't know, Taka, shall we break now for Q&A, and then I'll come back to the resources later?
Right, thanks, Almarie. It's a lot of information. I'm glad it's being recorded.
It is.
I'm glad it's being
A
recorded.
lot of it.
We will send you a link to the recording. So we'll send you after the session so that you can sort of go through the information again. So I think let's go into Q&A. I don't see any question in the chat at the moment, but if you have got a question for Almarie, yeah, this is your time. Just indicate by putting up your hand, and then once I've mentioned your name, you can unmute, and then you can speak. If you don't want to speak to be on the spotlight, you can just type your question in the chat, and then we will read it for Almarie. Right.
Nobody has any questions. Did I say so much? Or did everything just pass by too quickly?
Yeah, maybe let me start myself just before Unati goes on. Almarie, let's say you are starting, you don't have experience with boards, how do you do it? How do you write it? Because you don't have that experience which they are looking for. How do you put it in your CV?
That is where the language that you use is very important, because even though you are working in a career and you are going to reference that in your CV, that does not have to do with boards. You can tweak the way those two those two examples that I used, you can tweak your CV to such an extent that it shows that you have the ability to be a board member. And that is also where your board profile comes in. I call it your board profile, but even if you haven't had board roles before or committee roles even before, you can write the board profile to show that you are able to do this job. So it all comes down to how you present yourself. And if you present yourself in the right way on your documents, that will open those doors for you. Obviously, there are other ways as well to open doors for yourself, which maybe another guest or at some point we can talk about that, because it's a question that we often get. Taka, I'm sure it's a question you also get on a daily basis.
Yes.
I don't have any experience. How do I get onto a board? How do I get onto my first board? And the best way is to write your documents in such a way that even when they see you do not have experience specifically on boards, it must be worded in such a way to show that you are strategic, that you are not just operational.
Thank you for that. Unati, I see I see your hand is up. You can unmute yourself and go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My 3 questions. Let me start by introducing myself. Unati Mpekula. I worked for a couple of companies in South Africa, and my recent position was senior manager in a company in Abu Dhabi. I did not form part of the board as a senior executive, but occasionally I would be preparing some documentation for the board pack, and occasionally I would be invited to present in the board meetings, but I was not officially a board member. Now, can I put that in my CV as some kind of involvement in the board or the governance? Also, before I worked for this company, I was part of the ports company in South Africa, the National Ports Authority. There, I was an EXCO member, and I also chaired RISCOs and other governance committees, such as licensing committees. So for me, when it comes to board membership, it looks to me like it's more a step up where the scale is larger. So it means then that that experience is something that I could say I can apply, not only apply at board level, but also maybe learning how to apply new learnings from what I will learn from my board peers. The actual question is, can I put all of that information and package it in such a way that shows that I do have board background of sort, even though I was not a board member? That's question 1. Question 2 is the CV. You mentioned a board CV. You showed us the outline of what they would look for. But I would also like to see if you have an example of a field CV, just also to capture the language that is used. Not that I'll copy it verbatim, but I would actually get some thought process in terms of how to think when I'm writing this CV. And then my third one is on the volunteering and qualifications. I do not volunteer in organizations where I am actually physically participating, but I am a donor for the World Food Programme. Is that something I can put as part of my CV, or is it something where you are physically present that they will count as volunteering? And also, I am currently enrolled with an international directorship program. When it comes to qualifications, you said there is qualifications, which means such as your degrees and your MBAs. Now, these programs, such as the directorship programs, do we put those as qualifications because it would be a postgraduate certificate, or do we put it as part of certification, professional certification? Those are my 3+ questions that I have.
Okay, let's see if I can remember all of them. If I miss something, then just tell me. First of all, helping a board and presenting to a board. When I write a board profile, I call it board level experience. So that means you did not specifically sit on the board. You weren't a nominated or an appointed board member, but you have board level experience. So whether you prepared something for the board and you stood in front of them and you presented your appeal to them, whatever the case was, you can reference that in your board profile, and also the position that you were in. So you were working in this specific company, and as part of your work, you presented to the board. So it's going to be on your CV, it's going to be in your board profile. You will mention it, especially if you haven't had any other board experience. You will say, my board level experience includes, and you will mention that. And then where you have your career, where you have your executive experience, you will then, under that section, you write a paragraph. Usually I do bullet points, but there you will say, in this position, I presented to the board you can add there maybe the subject you presented on, or if it was on a regular basis, if you are maybe a CA and you worked with the Audit and Risk Committee, you can say, I prepared the financial statements and I presented those to the Audit and Risk Committee. So depending on what you did there. The second question, one of the resources that I mentioned that I am going to provide to you guys, and this is the first time I'm giving this away ever, is my template for my board CV that I use. So as part of our services as well, that's where Taka and I overlap. We both write board CVs. And this is the template that I use to write board CVs. And it is really effective because I've used these in numerous countries. I've lived in Australia. I worked over there. That's where I started in this business. And when I came over to South Africa, I realized that all my clients are online. So I just continued working and then established NED Careers. So you can absolutely use this board CV. And I've seen it. It's been tested. I've had clients appointed from this board CV in just about, on every continent. So, and in many, many countries. So I'm going to give you the template. Everyone is going to receive a template. I think the easiest might be for me to send it to Taka, and then, because I don't have the list of attendees, and then Taka can maybe send it to all the attendees. And then what I'm thinking now, the last question, can you just quickly, Unathi, just give me one keyword?
It was about donations. Do they count as volunteering?
Yes. Yeah. If you do not have other strong volunteering experience, then do mention that you donate regularly to whatever organization it is. Once again, please make sure that you have proof of that, because you might be asked about that. And some companies will go as far as to actually inquire whether you really did donate to that organization. So please make sure that when you do make a donation, keep the receipts, keep some proof of payment to that organization in case you are being asked about to provide some proof, or they contact the organization themselves to ask whether Unathi did donate to them. But better than a donation will be to get I can always say, get your hands dirty, find an organization and just do something there. Go and scoop food at the soup kitchen, or go and volunteer at the Spa Ladies race. Do something like that.
Yeah.
Someone has to hand me my Coke while I'm running.
So. Yeah, you have to do something so that you can find something to put on your CV. Thank you so much, Almarie, for that presentation, and also for responding to all those questions. We have run out of time, unfortunately, but we are going to send you the link to the recording and also to the presentation via email. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending this session. And Almarie, thank you so much. Get well soon. But you look like a movie star.
No, Taka, hopefully next time when we see each other, I don't have to have these sunglasses on, then I can actually stand in the light and look in the light.
Okay, thank you so much. It was nice having you. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to end here. Please, you're welcome to follow us on LinkedIn and also visit our website. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.